And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel. Today we're taking a look at Harvest. Now when I first got Harvest in the mail, I looked at it and it looked really similar to Harbor, which is another Tasty Minstrel game. I think that's deliberate. I think it's in the same universe. I was not a big fan of Harbor, but this game looked different and had a different designer. This is Trey Chambers. This is his second published game, if I'm correct. His first one was a worker placement game where there's like a zillion places to put workers. This is a much smaller one, and I was kind of curious about it. It was a game about farming, and there's a lot of those. Fantasy farming, I guess. Instead of growing pumpkins, you're growing plumpkins. So things like that, and as a fantasy, silly, almost like a Terry Pratchett universe to some degree. Anyway, how do you play it, you might wonder? I'll tell you. In this game, everyone is going to get a farmer. And so there are different farmers that are in the game, and every farmer has a flip side where you can be well plant some dill, and they're basically just a generic. They have no special ability, but they get an extra 15 points at the end of the game. And so you're going to pick one of these, and at the bottom it's going to tell you what your starting resources are. So if, for example, I pick Princess Prima Donna, I'll start with 3 water, and there's wood and water tokens. I'll start with 1 fertilizer. There's also fertilizer wooden tokens. There's also potion tokens, but she doesn't start with one of them. And then I start with some seeds. So I'll start with a bean seed, a plumpkin seed, and a scarlet seed. All right, so these are placed in front of me. Each player also has a farm, one area where they can farm, and then some locked areas. Now, Princess Prima Donna actually has another little farm area here, and she has a special ability. Each player has a couple special abilities that they'll be able to utilize. Sometimes it gives them an extra space to put things. Sometimes this guy doesn't need, he can just build farms. He doesn't even need to place them here. So each player is going to get this, and then the game's going to start. Now, at the beginning of each round, and rounds are measured by these special cards. You're going to have 5 special cards per player, so there's 5 rounds in a game. You're going to put out these special cards, 1 for each player each round. Then each player is going to start the game with one of these cards. These numbers are going to be determining turn order. And so let's say at the beginning of each round, you're going to shuffle this turn order deck and place these cards out here. There's 15 cards in this deck. And then so starting with the lowest person who has one of these. So let's say I have 1 and someone else has 13, someone else has 8, someone else has 15. The 8 would go first. And the 8 is going to pick one of these. When they're picking one of these, they're doing 2 things. They're picking their turn order for that round. So obviously picking 2 here means you're going to go first, but they're also going to get a special ability. So maybe they will pick 14 and they'll replace it with their 8. Why did they pick 14? Because 14 gives 2 water, a fertilizer, and a gem seed. Well, that's pretty good, but you're also probably going to go last. And then the next person, the person who has 11, I want to go first. So they get this action. And when you get the action right away, and then they're going to go first the next round. And then the person who has the 13 goes next, and they wait with the 8. And then the person who has the 15 says, well, I'm going last. I might as well take this. I'll take this 13 here. It gives me a free potion. And then the players are going to go in order 2, 8, 14, 13, and 14. Now what's going to happen here is every round, you're going to do the same thing. So next round, you're going to be replacing these numbers. You're going to shuffle these in with the deck, and there's always going to be 3 new numbers out there. And so it's an interesting way. Once you take your special ability, you just tuck the card under your board like this to show your number so you know the turn order. Turn order matters because players are going to be placing workers on the board. Now, there's different places where you can place workers. There's these spots here where only 1 worker can go. In a 2-player game, there's 1 spot on each board. In a 3 or 4-player game, there's 2 on each board. And these let you take 2 of the actions that are below it. You can also go here. Any number of workers can go here, but then you only get 1 of the actions. Players can also go on these special cards, which are going to be different each round, and you will take all the actions on that card. Now, some actions say pay stars on them. You'll notice this one shows 3 stars that you need to pay. To do that, you need to have gold stars in front of you. So this bean is worth 1 gold star. If I had 3 of these beans, I would be able to turn those in to take this action, which would give me 2 potions. So what do the actions do? Well, in the middle, the general store, you go here and you can take 2 of these items. These items are water and fertilizer and potions, but you got to pay for that, and the different seeds. Over here in the land office, you can add to your farm. There's different things you can do. First of all, you can expand your plots, so you can add an expansion here next to your board, which gives you more areas to put farms. You can just add more farm cards and place these here. This gives you more plots where you'll be able to build things, or you can build a building. When you build a building, you're just going to pay a certain number of stars based on the space that costs. Buildings are going to be worth points at the end of the game. You'll notice plots are worth points too. And they give you a special ability. This one, for example, just when I build it, I'm instantly going to get a fertilizer and a seed. Some will give me special abilities for the end of the game. You'll notice this one has no points. Some are worth a lot of points, like this guest house here. And these will take up lock spots too. If you don't have enough lock spots, you can't put out more fields and more buildings. Finally, the most important actions are harvest, plant, and tend. These are going to let you plant seeds into your farm. When you plant seeds, you'll take a seed that you already own and you're going to plant it. You need to pay fertilizer equal to the number of stars on that seed. So if I plant this pumpkin, I'll plant it, but before I plant it, I just flip it over. Now it's worth 3 gold stars. Before it was worth a silver star, which is a point at the end of the game, but I can't use that to pay for actions. These 3 gold stars, if I harvest them, I'll be able to use them for actions. As you plant in the different fields, the different items, you can only have one type of item in each field, although you can have the same thing in multiple fields if you want to. When you tend, you're going to pay water equal to your plant's stars, and you will be able to add, for each time you pay water, you'll be able to add more in that field. So I can double the amount of pumpkins I have in a field, for example, or I could add lots of beans to a field. And then harvest is simply pulling them out of a field where you'll be able to use them for to pay for actions, or just keeping them for the end of the game for points, but either way you've cleared the field to put more things on it. And that's basically how each of the games goes. After a round, these cards will be replaced by new cards out here, and these cards are combinations of the actions above. The buildings will be refreshed, so there's always new buildings, like this one here gives you 3 water when it's built. You'll remember I talked about potions earlier. A potion covers all the water that you'll need to tend a plant, rather than, so it can be multiple water, especially when you're upgrading like these, which would normally cost 5 water, and a potion can replace all of that water. And like I said, each person has special abilities. Some of those special abilities will give you points. At the end of the game, you're going to add the points for all your fields, your buildings, all your seeds and vegetables that you have, and any bonuses, and whoever has the most points is the winner. Okay, wow, I really like this game. Let me tell you, first of all, I like the artwork. I like this universe. It felt like, I'm not going to compare it to Harbor after this, but it's that same universe, and this one, the theme came out a lot stronger than the other one. But I like the silly artwork, I like the pieces, and how many games come with little wooden poop pieces, which is going to be often referred to by less mature groups, which is pretty much every group I play with. But the game itself, you have only a few actions that you're doing over the entire course of the game. I mean, if you think about it, you are simply going to pick your bidding turn at the beginning of each round, and then you're placing 2 workers, which are going to give you between 1 and 4 different actions, or actually maybe 1 or 8 different actions. You'll take those actions, and the actions that you do are different, but there's not a ton of choices, and a lot of choices are very similar. Expand the farm, build buildings in the farm, plant seeds, and harvest them. But it works. This feels like a really heavy, involved Euro game packaged down in a 45-minute thing, and I think it's fantastic. I like the different things you can do. Basically, if you're going to play with the asymmetrical sides, which I really think you should do because they're so much more fun, they kind of give you a sort of a focus. One person gets extra bonus points for buildings. He doubles the points on buildings. That's amazing. You can only build 4 buildings over the course of the game, but you're going to make sure you want to do that. Another person has seeds that when they plant them in front of them in the one special thing, they're going to get 1 of that type every turn for free. Well, you need to focus on that. You're also going to find that you're crisscrossing. A 3-player game's probably the easiest. You don't butt heads as much because there's more space. But in a 2 and a 4 player game, you're constantly at odds. And that card out there, I really want that card, and so I'm going to take that card before someone else does. Or do I have the money to pay for these actions? And potions, they're great. They cover the water you need, but they could be a pain to get too. So each game's going to feel different because you'll get buildings that give you special abilities, but it plays really quickly. My favorite part of the game, though, is the turn order. That's such a neat concept. Now, it's not totally original to this game. It's similar to a bidding mechanism in Reiner Knizia's Ra, which is an auction game that came out many, many, many years ago. But in this game, it works really well. I sit there and I go, okay, do I want to go early? Or do I want to go late and take the big bonus? And what cards have people taken? And if I do, when I put my card out there, I'm giving this possibility of this card to somebody else. It's really a nice concept. There's 15 different order cards. They all have bonuses. The 15 bonus is much more amazing, obviously, than the 1. But if you take the 1, you are definitely going first, which can give you access to the best action card out there. The order of the action cards, the order of the buildings, the way that these turn order cards come out, all those combine to make a really in-depth game. But again, and I should show you this, these are the rules of the game. It is just this. And I like that. It's simple. It's fast. I barely had to look at these rules. The game makes sense. You don't have to say, what do these cards do? No, they're just variations of harvest, plant, build, all that stuff. Really fun game. Highly recommend it. Check it out. Dice Tower Judgment. Excellent.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.